Hello and welcome to Moneycontrol and Liases Foras' special offering, House Purchase Affordability. Well, choosing to buy or rent is a major decision that affects your financial health, lifestyle, city of work and personal goals. Both require a regular income and may also require a certain degree of effort to maintain. Renting offers flexibility, predictable monthly expenses and someone to handle repairs. Home ownership brings intangible benefits, a sense of stability and pride of ownership. But the big question is of affordability. Moneycontrol and Liases Foras have done a study of most and least affordable cities in the country. For this, a total of 32 cities with 41,482 projects have been considered for the study. Let's break down the study understanding for you and the latest trends. Joining us for that is Pankaj Kapoor. He's founder and managing director, Liases Foras Real Estate Rating and Research Private Limited. We also have with us Mr. NIRANJAN HIRANANDANI, who's co-founder and managing director of Hiranandani Group. Gentlemen, hi, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Kapoor, let's begin with you. And the affordability of house depends on many things like the purchasing power, cost of living, connectivity, ease of access, among many others. But what has been the criteria of your study in the city for deciding for most affordable or least cities?
So we consider rental yields as a parameter, and rental yield is the reason being is the rental are more representative of the people's purchasing power and capacity to pay for housing. Capital value can be speculatively high or low. So the rental yields we consider as a measure. And we also wanted to assess that it's not that certain quadrants of the cities where the rental yields are high and more supply are available. Because of that, the whole analysis gets skewed to that area. So we wanted the rental yields representation across the entire cross sections of the city. So we divided the city into 5 distance band, and so what we consider the maximum the distance from city center to the spread of the project. So the city's projects is spread over say 50 kilometer. So each band is analyzed at 10 kilometer band. So there are 5 bands. So the first band from 0 to 10, then the second will be 10 to 11 to 20, and similarly 21 to 30. And we analyze the rental yield in this aspects, and then we normalize. So what happens, there are bigger cities and smaller cities. Like if you take Bangalore, Mumbai, these are the complex urban agglomerations where the population size and economy size itself is big. When I'm comparing the bigger cities to the smaller cities, the yardstick has to be the same. So what we consider that we normalize these distance. So in Bangalore, if the spread is say 50 kilometers, and place like smaller cities like Raipur, if the spread is only 10 kilometer. So the Bangalore, each quadrant is of 10 kilometer if the distance, the spread is 50 kilometer, and Raipur, if the spread is 10 kilometer, the each band is of 2 kilometers. So it's like a funnel where you are analyzing cities based on its geography. So there are large geography and there are small geography, and these geographies have a different size of economy, different size of population, different purchasing power of the people, income classes, and things like it. But when we analyze and normalize it into same normalized band, when we start analyzing, it gives a good reflection. And then what we wanted to see is not the average rental yield of the city. We wanted to see that how many bands in which the city is having the maximum rental yield. So there may be cases that average rental yield of the city is coming higher, but that is skewed to only one single band. We wanted to see that the city center to the peripheries across the cross section of cities, if the city maintains the affordability, that will be ranked. So what we consider the rental yield in each of these band, and the cities which is having the maximum number or maximum number of bands have the higher rental yield is been ranked number 1. And that's a basic reason. If you see the analysis, the Vadodara average rental yield is higher, but the Rajkots has got more bands having higher rental yields than the Vadodara. That's where the Rajkots has been ranked over and above the Vadodara. So that is how the overall analysis has gone by.
We understand that, Mr. Kapoor, but what is the most important criteria when it comes to buying a house?
My own sense is that, it's a representations of how easy or difficult to own a house. So the rental yield represents that, in other words, you can say that how many months rents are required to own the property. So in the places like Bangalore, if you require 330 months, then in case of Vizag and all those things, although the capital values are low, but rentals are also low comparative, and then it becomes more costly and more affordable city. So this is actually an index which represents that how easy or difficult to own a property. Or it can also be said that how productive or unproductive capital values is for owning the property. Like Bangalore, you have got very high productivity because the rental yields across the cross sections of the city is higher. So owning a property is higher. And in another sense, it shows that there is a scope for price appreciations in the real terms and in real sense, because people's income is good and the capital value is also proportionately aligned to it. But in Vizag, the capital values are not aligned to the rentals available. And this could be because of various reasons, like, maybe the urbanizations or urbanizable or accessible lands in that particular location is lesser, or investor participations in the recent times has been higher. Certain speculative forces been there because of the way rental have not gone up, but the capital values in the recent past has appreciated quite a lot. So, that is how it is. So what this really represents the purchasing power or house affordability index, like, how easy or difficult it is to own the property in different cities.
Let's get you in the conversation, Mr. Hiranandani. And in your experience, how have you seen or judged the most affordable cities in India from rental and purchase point of view?
Manisha, let's be very clear. Where would you like to stay? In your village where your house is free? Or would you come to live in a jhopatpatti in Mumbai? Or would you stay in a house in Mumbai which is expensive? Or will you go to a city where the house is cheap but the job is not there? So the persons who take a house in terms of it is not dependent really on the affordability of the house only. It is more about the job opportunities that you get and what you really want to do. So you can almost think that 50% of people who live in Mumbai jhopatpattis may be having a house in a village and other places, but they come and stay even in jhopatpattis. Similarly, a person would be willing to pay more rent in Mumbai than in other places like Kolkata, for example, or Bangalore in comparison, or Hyderabad in comparison, or in NCR as comparison to other cities would be more expensive than North India other locations. But why do they come to these cities? Because there are more job opportunities, there is more income levels, there's more luxury, there's better education, there's better health facilities. So the driving force to cities is not only about the rent and affordability of a house, but also this. Yes, but the critical factor, to answer your question directly, cities like Kolkata are definitely seen as cheaper. Bangalore is reasonable. Chennai is also reasonable. Mumbai and NCR is definitely more expensive. But still, the driving force is to the metros where the jobs are available.
Mr. Kapoor, so where are we looking at new projects versus inventories? Does it adhere to the kind of research that we've done? And also, is it the suburbs or near city centers which attracts the buyers?
Bangalore, if you look at both the economic hubs are in the outskirts of the cities, and if you see the commercial office space supply and the IT supply is across the ORR road, and because of that, it interacts well to the inner city as well as outer cities. most of the projects are most in the large cities comes to the outskirts of the market, and it has been growing. Bangalore, in the sense, if you see during this pandemic time, the new launches have reduced, and in the recent upsurge in the sales has really brought down the months inventory to 21 months. So it's also is the most productive inventory overhang as on date across all cities in India. So Bangalore is there, and most of the supply which has been coming in the outskirts. There have been few cases where luxury supplies also come in the city center and inner ring road and surrounding, but majority of the supply comes in the outskirts, and which has been the case in most of these top cities in India. And during this pandemic and from the last 2 quarters, we are seeing good flow of the new launches. Last quarter, we have seen 93,000 units launched, which was highest after the pandemic has impacted in and my own sense is probably this was the largest ever supply in a quarter, and I see the flow is continuing. So going forward, I see the new supply is also coming by more and more, because during the pandemic, the way the residential market has seen kind of recovery, builders have the confidence, and there are new launches which are coming by.
What do you say to that, Mr. Hiranandani? Where are the new projects coming up? Which cities are doing better when it comes to purchases of houses?
I think the Mumbai metropolitan region and Thane, Navi Mumbai, Panvel, that region is certainly doing extremely well. You can see the statistics which have come out, and they are probably, there's been a price point increase as well as the volumes have increased tremendously. Of course, other cities like Pune, Bangalore, Chennai are also doing extremely well. The tier 1 cities seem to be doing much better just now than the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Though I think if you look at an overall position, the tier 2 and tier 3 cities have also seen a turn. However, there has been one major change which I am seeing, especially in peripheral of metropolitan cities and tier 2 and tier 3 cities, or even lower down. I see a large number of people moving away from city centers to buy small plots of land, or to buy a bungalow or a row house or something in the periphery or in the other places of city, or maybe even little away. This is a new trend which has taken place post-COVID, especially when the work from home and the ability to be able to communicate through VC, as I'm doing just now, and also be able to work, learn, study, and operate from home. This is a new trend which has happened. So a large number of peripheral areas outside Mumbai region, outside Pune, outside Thane, outside Bangalore, Chennai, a large number of plotting projects are now coming up, which was there before, but not to that extent, Manisha.
Mr. Kapoor, if we go with the study, Bangalore, Indore, Rajkot and Vadodara ranked in that order are the affordable cities. But they are such different cities, and so are the buying parameters. How would you break it down, each one?
Absolutely. There are different level of complexities when you come to, Bangalore, if you look at it's a city which have seen the highest migrations in the last decade, and it has its own urban complexity, it has its own congestions, but somehow the IT infrastructure, since it came around the whole peripheries of the outer ring road, that has really created efficiency in the rental and the capital values that is there. But when it comes to the Indore and Vadodara and Rajkot, these are comparatively much smaller cities, and they are highly dependent upon the secondary industries. IT driven economy is very limited. So you have primary and secondary industries. Majority of the people work into either secondary industries, or they are in the administrative jobs with the government jobs and things like it. But the city's efficiencies is good. So if you look at Indore, also ranks number 1 smart cities and cleanest cities in India. So it also shows that the spatial efficiencies is also very good in Indore. So as a case of Vadodara and Rajkot, the distribution of economy and people are well placed, and these are the smaller cities, so that capital values also maintains quite well. That's the reason there's no one yardstick through which you can really do assessment and say that because of these reasons the city has the efficiencies, or because of this the city does not have efficiency, because the rental yields as a measurement has two value. One, this is numerator has rental and denominator has capital value, and they are dependent upon several parameters. Could be the size of the economy, the migrations, the available accessible land, type or the type of industry which is taking the dominance. Because of that, the income density is very different. So there are several reasons because of that, but prima facie, these fives are because of the spatial efficiencies, which I call it because of that, such kind of a ranking which has come for the top five.
Okay, that point is well taken. But Mr. Hiranandani, I want to come to you, and I want to take to what you spoke earlier about the commercial and the residential properties. Let's also move from affordability to better investment in these cities also. So what kind of projects do you see doing better, and what would you advise?
The buying of the houses has certainly gone up. I mean, post-COVID, people are going in for buying their own house. Number one, you have to remember, Manisha, that at the end of the day, the social security for a person at old age in India without a house, a person has no social security. There is nothing like good pensioning plans and other things to there. So if you don't have a house, with inflation again coming up its way, if you have not bought a house, you're going to be in a precarious situation. My gut feel is at the end of this year, you're going to see house prices across the board rise by about 10 to 15% at least. The cost of inputs have gone up, the cost of lands have gone up. Governments are acquiring lands at 2 times, 4 times the ready reckoner rate. They are compensating people much higher rates. All this with steel, cement, and other input costs going up, I can only see prices going up. Of course, the fact is also some salaries in some segments have gone up. In some, they have not. But I think IT and other segments, the salaries are definitely going up. Many of the manufacturing units also salaries are going up. So people who have the ability to buy are certainly going back into the buying spree, which was not there much earlier. But now people do feel that post-COVID, that it makes sense to buy a house and not only rent it. But the younger people still go out and rent a house. But they are younger people who want to not decided where they ultimately want to settle down or which city or which place they will finally stay. So they are reluctant to buy a house and pay stamp duties and other things and close transaction. But I think over a period of time, even the youngsters who at first thought that they would not have to buy a house are buying it. In the COVID times, many of the people rented the house have gone through difficult periods on a rented house as compared to people who own the house. The societies have been a little difficult for them. You wanted to bring your siblings, you wanted to bring your parents, you wanted to bring your grandchildren home. And the societies were kind of reluctant to see that kind of congestion, especially in a rented house, while you wouldn't have that kind of a problem if you own the house. So I think owning a house has come back with a bang, but it doesn't mean that rental housing is not happening. It is.
So, Mr. Hiranandani, when it comes to millennials, would you say that they rather would like to rent rather than purchase a house because you don't know where you are going to be going forward? Or has the pandemic changed that mindset?
So, if you look at commercial rentals, yields are higher, maybe 7, 8, 9%. And as compared to that, the residential yields are close to between 2 and 4%. So obviously the rental yields are lower, but you have to understand the other aspect of it. Look at the overall real estate business. 80% in India is relating to residential housing. So the demand for residential housing is maybe 4 to 5 times the amount of commercial. And obviously, this makes a world of a difference for the purposes of persons who want to construct or invest into a house. Because if you want to resell your investment, which is in residential property, you're more likely to be able to sell it at any point of time, at maybe a little discounted price if the markets are down. But in the case of commercial, if the business is down, you may not be able to sell it at all or lease it at all. So while the returns on commercial are definitely higher today, if you look at it in comparison with residential, even now, those investors, except for international investors, 70 to 80% of investors in India would look at residential properties for the purposes of investment and security and lifetime security, not only for themselves, but also for their children, their future progenition and expectation. Though the children may never stay in that house, they may go to some other cities for work or other countries for working. Even then, the parents tend to buy a house and keep an extra house if they can afford it and give it on rent in the interim period, even though rental is lower.
Okay, a lot of changes there. But Mr. Kapoor, let's start from the bottom of the list now of the least affordable cities. These are the expensive cities. Are people migrating there? Are people renting? Are these cities the ones that do not give you enough opportunities in career?
I'm saying that, yeah, because the reason is the rental demand also could be low because there is lesser number of migrations in this. You see more of out migrations. They are highly dependent upon either tourism-driven economy or primary or secondary sectors economy. The tertiary sector, especially IT and banking finance, which gives rise to the higher income people's in the service sectors, and because of that, the rental and the capital value both increases. These cities are missing. That could be one of the reasons, because most of these cities have got very low migration. Because of that, the rental demand is also low, so the rental is low, and relatively capital value has gone up in the recent past disproportionately higher. That because of that, the rental yields are way too low. So they become our least affordable cities.
Okay, Mr. Kapoor, let's conclude this discussion with the final question to you. What is the best city that you think is the best? What would you choose in sense of rental yields or in sense of purchasing?
I would probably, I always consider rental yield as a barometer for price productivity. So if your rental yields are in the range of 3.5% plus, that means your capital value has a scope for appreciation. So I would still go for Bangalore.
All right, that's a great discussion, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Kapoor and Mr. Hiranandani, telling us on what really is the latest when it comes to affordability of housing in various cities, what projects are doing better, and what really is the mindset going across. Thank you so much for watching.